Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Reality's Edge, the Cyberpunk Skirmish rules from Joseph McGuire, author of This Is Not a Test. Now, there's a lot of This Is Not a Test DNA in Reality's Edge, but this takes the game from a post-apocalyptic wasteland to a dystopian future, sort of like if you've watched Altered Carbon or any of the classics like Giant Mnemonic, Neuromancer, Blade Runner. This is what we're talking about here. A world where technology's gone awry, mega corporations have taken over, the former military government complex is not what it used to be, although they still meddle in world affairs. And you're just a Joe jobber trying to make it in the world, trying to get job ops and working for shadow brokers, which would be people who are trying to, of course, accomplish their own mysterious goals and use you as pawns in meat space and cyberspace trying to get things done. So, what is this book? This book is a massive, massive couple hundred pages. I think it comes in at 300 and change, 316 when you get to the crew roster. Just full of stuff to do. That is, I would say, one of Joey's great strengths when he writes is he gives you a lot of meat on the bone as far as different types of warbands, models, bad guys, scenarios, and world building. So lots in here, everything from your Reality and Beyond. So this is the story of the game, your gameplay mechanics. Now, if you've played This Is Not a Test before, uses the same activation core mechanic, an activation test. If you pass, you generate your 2 AP as normal. If you fail, you generate 1 AP and then you pass game over to the other player. So there is an element of I go, you go potentially if you keep passing your activation tests, but your players can, or your NPCs, your PCs can fumble, and it passes it over to your opponent to go and do something, and then they'll retain it until they themselves fail and pass it back. It is D10 based. Everything is going to be based on a target number, typically of a D10 plus your stat. So if you're shooting, you're trying to hit a target number 10, you're rolling a die, you're adding your modified stat. If you get a 10 or more, you successfully hit. So very quick to calculate and uses the same core DNA as This Is Not a Test does. So after that, we got cyber warfare, so how to hack. That would be the biggest new thing in here for players of This Is Not a Test, is that there's a whole like hacking mechanic and cyber warfare thing that is massive and cool, and it's your space wizardry basically. It's allowing you to fight on the net just as much as you fight on the in what's called meat space, which is where the regular Joe folks live their lives. Lots of stuff for non-player characters and bystanders. So you also have things like just people running around the streets. Like, this is a busy city. You're not fighting in the wasteland, right? There's not just like rad roaches and sort of like zombies crawling around. There's actually like people and kids and cops and whoever when you have an engagement. You have to place neutrals. And then all the stuff for like your bystanders and stuff, what can happen if you accidentally kill somebody, building your crew, and then the black market. So this is all the stuff on the black market, guns and robots and power armor and all the cool things you could possibly imagine in a Cyberpunk game. Special rules, job ops. So this is all your scenarios. Job ops is a short form for the actual scenarios, the things you play for in a game, because it's a job opportunity for you and your crew. And then campaigning in the Sprawl. So what do you get? Your rep, which is your big thing, and then information and stuff as well. How you hire freelancers, how you play the game, resolving and acquiring new talent, and learning skills. And then all your neutral parties. So this is the huge bestiary of everything from like CorpSec Guns to Griefer Avatar. I like a Griefer Avatar because it's basically just someone that's hacked into the net while whatever's happening in your game is going on, your job op, and just decides to like mess with you. So it's literally a griefer from a video game. Imagine someone like that showed up in real life and started messing with whatever the job you're doing is. Mnemonic Courier, because of course we had a Mnemonic Courier. Network Ice, so Ice, black and white Ice is defensive or offensive Ice. Ice is just a computer program. It's like an attack or defense program. Poison Roaches, Protesters, Rampaging Cyborgs, Rent-A-Cops, Runaway Robots, a Scavenger Ghoul, because you gotta have ghouls, and a Zombie. It's just all kinds of cool stuff. And then your roster and your acknowledgements. It is beautifully illustrated. I can't remember the name of the artist, but let's look it up right now. It is Osprey Games. Thomas Elliott, a life love sci-fi, and he went to the Guilds of London Art School. Awesome. Yeah, and really well done. So like, definitely the art itself is just soaked in the theme of Cyberpunk. Now, if you were a 90s Cyberpunk fan, Joey is too. So I think it's in good hands. He definitely knows what he's doing when it comes to like just setting the scene and putting the world together and stuff. So 4 big key things the author wants you to know. You and your crew are punks. You're not super soldiers or Olympic level athletes. The road to the top is long and dangerous. Are you tough enough? There's no easy shortcuts. Nobody comes great overnight. Experience points are few and far between, and they're earned through hard knocks. Chrome is a shortcut. Cybernetics are great, but the improvements come at a high price, which is your humanity. And then you cannot do it all. Choose your crew carefully, especially when you're starting out. You'll have some weaknesses, and they're unavoidable, but luckily your competition will have them as well. So it's a Cyberpunk game. Nobody cares whether you succeed or not, except for you, and the deck is stacked against you. You've got all of your section stuff here. And then talking about the Sprawl. So what happened to the world? Well, the Sprawl is basically the common term for all of where people now live, all the cities and the meat space environments that make up what humanity has basically become. Corporate takeovers took over all the governments eventually, like collapsing economies were taken over by private interests. You got special economic zones, corporate authority, and then districts. And then basically, just like the Underhive in Necromunda, things are divided into different districts. So you get your upper reaches, which is where the rich live, the burbclaves, which is where the averages live, the street, which is where folks, it's literally the street, and people mix together, and then ragtowns. And the ragtowns, of course, are where the poors live and like cobbled together stuff. And then cyberspace, so the hypernet and how you access it. Most people have a cat terminal, and there's also cobbled together networks that all the poors make out of scavenged like stuff to get on the net. And then your part in the world, you're part of the shadow economy. So you're a get stuff done crew of folks, right? The power brokers, the people that are trying to get things done, extra legally or even outside just the corporate rules of whatever corporation they work for, will hire folks like you to get things done. Those are all your job ops. And then I do like, so this is a really great acknowledgement that Cyberpunk has not been on vogue for a long time, because Joey actually put in a lexicon. He uses terms that aren't easily understood, and he actually threw in like a brief like glossary of all of the words that come in. It's like bot, short for robot, CC, cryptocurrencies, corpsec, corporate security, corporati, high-level corporate employees. It's like Illuminati, but for corporations. Chum, a person that's new to the street because they're just there to track sharks. Drones, so robots that have a rare unshackled AI, or they could be like human controllers. There's something that isn't just a robot. Favela, a large multifamily dwelling built from scraps, so part of the ragtown. GovMill, which refers to the last of the government's military industrial complexes. Holographics, so hollows. HoodNet, a local low-quality network. Idoru, so a computer program or text-to-speech thing that passes on information that has become popular and usually does it through song. So these are like, literally there's a novel called Idoru that you can read if you ever want to find out where this term comes from. But some are also believed to be unshackled AIs that have secretly like disguised themselves as these like pop culture icons. ISOCell, so isolation cell. Meat space, the one I keep using, it's the real world. Musico, a well-known musician or media-based company personality. Can also refer to an Idoru. A network node, so a physical place to access cyberspace. Smaller nodes can be wireless, but hypernet nodes are hardened and require direct link access only. Pengyu, Mandarin for friend or pal, a common term in the Sprawl for friend or compatriot, implies a close connection. Permahire, an employee with a long-term contract. Real space, another term for the real world, but with the negative connotation of meat space. Sprawler, someone lives in the sprawl. An unshackled AI, an AI that's independent basically from human control. VidJoint, essentially a bar with a low to mid-tier quality holographic video entertainment booth. A VR joint, similar to a VidJoint, but you go into a VR pod and have a full avatar and can experience whatever. Very cool. And then you get into your gameplay. I'm going to skip gameplay because it uses the same core mechanics as this is not a test, so I've already described them. You're rolling for target number tests, and then you're rolling for your activation, how many AP you get, and then everything is target number tests on a D10, which is a stat plus to try and accomplish a certain number. Numbers can be low, but universally, typically for melee and for shooting, you're looking for a 10. You can also do all kinds of other activities too, like falling, climbing, jumping, going prone, going through difficult terrain, spotting people, hiding from them. Line of sight, you can see 360. Cover, it's a penalty to firing. Light cover is -1, heavy cover is -2. And then you determine casualties at the end. And I love that. All hits are scored when your activation ends. So I bet Joey's gonna claim forever that Apocalypse took this from him. But damage is resolved at the end of your activation. So as soon as you fail a damage test or an initiative test, or you've gone through activating all your models, if there's any damage sitting out there, that's when it's resolved. And that's to represent the chaos of not really knowing if you finished someone off yet until you take a breather, basically. So you apply hits to people as you do your activations, and then as soon as your turn is over, you apply all your damage and have it roll off. So I'm giving it to you, Joe. You did it first. Forget Apocalypse. This is not a test rule. And then your wounds get applied afterwards. And whether or not you're out of action or grazed, if you're grazed, you have to try and make a fallback test, basically. It's a, oh, I got hit but didn't die. So if you pass your armor roll or make your save, you might run towards cover. Multiple shots, harder to shoot after each individual one, and it's got a spread of 3 inches. Suppressing, firing to melee, all that stuff. Charging. Morale, things get spooky when a crew is at 50% starting size, 25% when prompted by a special ability. If the showrunner or the designated leader goes out of action within 12 and line of sight of a model, you gotta make morale. And if you make morale, you might just retreat and count as being activated because it's bad. And if you fumble a morale test, and a fumble is rolling a 1 because a 10's always a crit, fumble's always a 1. So if I crit on that one, hooray, I'm good. But if I fumbled, I just get removed from the table. Your nerve completely goes. You don't just fall back, you take off, and you do a Lord of the Rings failed bravery test and just get removed from the board. And then hacking. So hacking is the big new ad here, and we're going to focus on that a bit. So when you are hacking, it involves using short pre-written computer programs to do something. Just like other actions a model takes, an app requires use of an AP. Most apps cost 1 AP, but some can be used, or they might be more time sensitive and stuff. They might be more than 1. And basically they have a stat line just like anything else. Friendly apps, an app with the label defense or support in its profile is what we call a friendly app. These apps are beneficial and a model's firewall does not resist them. So like if you try and put a friendly app on a friend, his firewall and his like resistance stuff is going to try and stop it. Models with the hacking ability have 3 important stats. They have the cyber stat, it's their native bonus the model receives to all hacking attempts. From its cyber deck, and it means access to hypernet remotely. Higher quality cyber decks have better bonuses, so like you can buy better gear basically when you're improving your guys. Your firewall is the model's passive defense against cyber attacks. Firewalls vary in quality, but even the most mundane objects with a computer chip have a digital protection of some kind. And then your digital hit points. This measures the digital damage a model can take. DHP is an abstract, which means quantifying a model's physical connection to the hypernet. So basically, what it's quantifying is how attached to the network are you and whether or not you get kicked off. Digital targets. Hacking and apps can target any model with some type of connection to the hypernet, using the HR as an access point. Unfortunately, this includes pretty much any model. So there's very few things that aren't tapped in, but like if you have like a cybernetic arm, you're all of a sudden attached to the net somehow because it's got an in port basically that the network can talk to. Operatives, every mission operative, save those with a penchant for old school mechanical gear, is decked out with fancy electronic equipment. Targets may include any of the following items: ranged and melee weapons, cybernetic enhancements, cybernetic body parts, and all of your equipment too, from your flashlights to whatever. It's rare for a model in a game of Reality Edge to not have any HRO of some sort. Therefore, players may never keep secret what models are carrying. Instead, each time a model suffers a cyber attack, a player should note aloud which items are models carrying, and thus which items can be affected by the attack. So as soon as you target someone with a cyber attack, they have to tell you everything that they have, because you're just able to scan and see it all basically through the network. Virtual creatures and cyber decks. There's 2 types of hackers that use DHP, physical models using a cyber deck and virtual beings. We cover those in detail later. For now, it's important to understand that DHPs are synonymous with a model's connection or presence on the hypernet. As a model's DHP dwindles and repeated cyber attacks, their connection is reduced until it's eventually severed. A model with 0 DHP may no longer hack or use apps. So basically, you don't die, but you'll lose your access to the network. Network nodes and cat terminals. So network nodes, such as the ubiquitous cat terminal, are littered across the sprawl and are probably the most valuable of all hacking targets. The data stored inside nodes and cats are worth a good amount of currency to the right broker. Nodes are unique in that they are shielded from remote communication attempts. The only access is directed via a direct neural interface or primitive keyboards. So in game terms, it means you have to walk over and actually touch the cat terminal. A model gains access when it hacks a node. Having access means the model can download the data stored in the network. Network nodes are specific to each mission and have different rewards, but cat terminals always have a random information, which you can roll for after the game. You can begin but they're basically treasure boxes. You can gain control of the local networks, and your crew's ability to hack improves immensely. So you want to get them just from the purpose of the point of view of like winning the game, but they also are the things that give you like treasures and treats. They're kind of like your treasure boxes in Frostgrave. Bots and drones can be hacked, of course. The environment sometimes can be hacked. So like an example of that is Gatecrasher. A standard network breaking attack, you can find this and other thousands like it. While not subtle, the Workhorse app, it only targets networks that have a range of 0. If the role is successful, gain access. If it's a fumble, the hacker's crew gains a trace token. Critical has no offense. So Gatecrasher would just open a door, basically. And then cyber attacks. A model with hacking ability may make and receive cyber attacks. Line of sight, they don't require line of sight, since hackers can partially see in the virtual world. However, they're limited to the app's range. So whatever the range of the app is, that's how far you can attack with it. To make a cyber attack, you roll a d10 and add the model's cyber stat, and any specific modifications, the target rolls a d10 and adds their firewall stat. So it's exactly like attack and defense, basically, in Melee, for an attack in, and this is not a test, except you're adding different stats. So it's your firewall, let's say I got an 11 there, versus, let's say the hacking attempt was a 6 or a 7. So I would have failed that hacking attack. And the app will tell me what the actual thing is. So who it can be targeted by, its range, its bonuses, and its results. Now let's take a look at some examples. Ooh, and virtual beings. So yeah, you also have, I should mention that there's also things wandering around the table that aren't really there. They're basically your virtual ghosts, but they can get miniatures in the table to represent them and just to look cool. Or they can show up like a hollow. NPCs and bystanders, so all your neutrals. They don't usually take procrastination. They always have 2 AP if they're going to do something. And they always have random things that they do. So the panic table, they can flee, fight, they might attack you. Lots of stuff on the table going around. And also, an operative may spend an AP to grab a bystander and hold it hostage. You can do terrible things. Or you can blend in. Spend an AP to blend in, makes it hard to hit you because you're blending into the crowd. You do want to have lots of extra models around though, so you can do these things. You have 800 cryptocurrency to hire your crew at the beginning. So 800 is a good amount. A crew is made up of 3 types of employees. There's the showrunner, this is the big boss, the perma-hire, and a freelancer who are hired on a permission basis. So freelancers are things like your hired guns. Your perma-hires are your buddies, basically. They're your gang of punks that are in there with you. And the showrunner is whoever's in charge. And there are tons of types of crews. You have everything from your showrunner background, so you can roll a dice and just see what you got. You can roll a d6 for that. Let's see what I got. I got a 2. I'm a street rat. Your showrunner was raised in the streets. I get +4 hit points and +1 metal. I gain the hard as nails skill, and then gangers cost us to recruit. They're 10 cryptocurrency less because I'm a dude from the street, man. I'm a cat from the street. I'm like Ice-T. This one is middle class. I'm a bourgeois. Your showrunner has an unremarkable childhood with parents that were warm but not overly affectionate. I have a middling childhood. Raised in corporate suburbia, you never really had to fight for anything. You're marked with boredom and from the conventional. You get +2 hit points and +1 metal. You start with a randomly determined high-end item. And you may not transfer this item to another model, but you can sell it for additional cryptocurrency reroll and any bleeding edge item results. Or you can be raised in arcology with affluent parents in a corporate arcology. So you can see that like you all get +1 metal no matter who you are. And then you get bonus hit points based on like how close to the streets you were. But you get better gear if you're raised Richie Rich. And then choose an operative type. Before accessing the visualizer from the mysterious benefactor, your showrunner was a mercenary operative with some type of talent, and you pick one. So you could be like a console cowboy, an enforcer, an infiltrator, someone that's a mask, so like you can blend into the crowds. Street doctor, Sprawl Ronin, the samurai, a true badass, or a tracer, a speed addict. The showrunner has a hard time standing in one place. So you've got basically like a really cool narrative thing going on for whoever the person is in charge of your gang before you even start building your gang. But they're the main authority in your crew, and they gain the motivator special rule for free. That means +1 to activation test nearby. That's cool that Joey put that in there as just the leader's ability, because that was the most commonly purchased ability, and this is not a test. I think everybody learned motivator. It's good that it's just a thing they do now, because it makes sense as a leader. Visualizer, at the start of the game, the avatar always counts, a showrunner's unique chrome counts as the tether point in the shadowbacker's avatar. At the start of the game, the avatar always starts in base contact with the showrunner. Further, the visualizer does not count against the showrunner's install point limit. It cannot be disabled or bricked, etc. So the shadow broker, the person that the showrunner is working for, starts off as a little like proxy marker next to them and like floats around. And then V-Spike, as an additional upgrade, the showrunner receives a special data spike that's unique to them. The V-Spike, as it's called, is very similar to the common data spike. It's about 6 inches long, and the showrunner can physically jam it into a network's output port. If you're to use the V-Spike, the showrunner must be in base contact with a node and spend an AP to install it. The action's automatic. From that point on, the virtual beings, friend or foe, can hack that specific network. So the showrunner may use the V-Spike only once per game. It allows you basically to turn one of the like nodes you have to walk up to and touch into an open node for your team, because you turn it, you basically stick like a repeater into it. And then yeah, your cryptocurrency cost. The showrunner cost their operatives type starting in cryptocurrency salary. So in this game, unlike your bosses, and this is not a test, your showrunner can be anybody, right? It's a template that sits on top of someone else's stat line. Then you get your shadow backer, who has an avatar stat. He exists in cyberspace, watching everything you do, and he's that little avatar that sticks to your boss at the beginning of the game. So he's got firewall of 6, he's got digital hit points of 6, his move / tether is 5 inches, and he has to stay within 16 of whoever he's tethered to, so he's tethered to your boss. His cyber ability is 4, and he has 3 AP. So you have this like little ghost that like flits around network style and can see things. So yeah, so here's all of it. Now the vast majority of the book from here on is actually going to be talking about all these different character types and the things you can give them. So I think the next, oh geez, there's a pile of it. The next like pile of dudes is going to be not your freelancers, but your basic guys. So we start with a console cowboy, Decker, and all the things they can get, right? So the console cowboy, they can do these for their stat increases. He can carry 6 things. His primary weapon set's a light machine gun, machine pistol, bludgeon, small blade, or sword. And you don't pay for these things. You just take them. What they do, and then where's their cost? And then there's their hacking profile as well, because they're a console cowboy. They have like even more cyborgs. You can just start as a cyborg. What do they do? Their stats. So they have like okay metal, but like a really good strength. Defense is pretty good. Hit points is really high at 8. Firewall of 6 because they can be hacked. They have a move of 3. Melee 3, aim 3. And then you can increase their stats. You can pick one. And then they have 6 slots to carry things from, and then you can choose one from their primary weapons. Either a heavy cyber body, add any one melee weapon, assault rifle or shotgun, or if they have a light cyber body, any one melee weapon, SMG or shotgun, and then they get to have skills as well. So there's a lot of like character creation in this, and what you'll want to do is you want to pick, again, I would go out and find miniatures you like. If you're first going to play this game, 5 miniatures you like that are all Cyberpunk themed. Pick one you like the most, and then roll up the background and have them be your showrunner. And then go down the list of next and next and next and just start rolling up to see what your characters are. A drone jockey, so people that like pilot drones. Maybe it's an unshackled AI, nobody knows. More great art. An enforcer, so someone who's just like a beat stick, where their guns are hitting things. A ganger, someone that came from the Sprawl, obviously, and are cheaper to hire if you're using the dude with the base thing. And down here at the very bottom, your starting salary. So this guy starts at 60. The weapon cost will be later on for when you roll up their weapons. Infiltrators, like a spy. I think they have personal motivations and stuff too. A mask. Faceless emotion hackers. These people who like manipulate people. They cost 100 to start off with. A street doctor starts at 80. Sprawl Ronin, gotta have Sprawl Ronin. Start with 100. And yeah, and tracers, like it just, there's so many. And then here's your stuff. So off the shelf items, things you can just buy. And you know, they all have stats, like if it's balanced. Oh, these are the weapon abilities they can have. So are they balanced? They cause bleeding, burst, compact, close range. These are all like the keywords. So your melee weapons, you can have everything from like a bludgeon, a collapsible stave. I like that you can get like the stick that like just gambits out. Combat hatchets, cyber strike, so like just your bare cyber fists or whatever if you're a cyborg. Integral, improvised melee weapons, small blades, swords, and all their traits. Ranged weapons, so light, it's classified the same way as in this test. So light, so things like a crossbow pistol, a hand cannon, you know, like Dirty Harry, light SMG, a vapor pistol, which is like a mister basically. Medium weapons, assault rifles, and the weapon costs are fairly high. So assault rifles 20, you have 800 to spend. If you took a enforcer with one, I think he was 120 base right there. So you're gonna probably have 5 to 7 models in your crew hanging out. Grenades, all that good stuff. And so, as opposed to being warbands, like This Is Not a Test was, this is very much a crew of characters. They're all gonna have their own perks. They're all gonna have a salary you're gonna have to spend on them, and they're gonna level up in kind of unique ways because they're not a warband of like boss, okay fighters, or boss, sub-boss, okay fighters, plebs, maybe dogs. It's a cast of characters, right? You're creating a rogues gallery basically and going on missions with them, which I like. That's got lots of personality like put into it and all your equipment and stuff. And like I said, the back half of this book is basically the rest of like how do you get cyber psychosis? Buying chrome, so buying cybernetic arms or eyes or torsos. This is all the stuff you can then give all your characters with. Like this guy, he's got a heavy cyborg body. He's probably just a head in a jar. He looks like Richard Nixon when he came back with a new shiny robot body. Nixon's back. And all your different apps you can learn for your hackers, high-end items. So you get into your like, these would be like your old tech items, and This Is Not a Test. High-end armor, equipment, range weapons. And here's where you get into the crazy stuff. What does it do? A high-end upgrade. So like a high-end hand cannon could shoot micro missiles. You know, it could be Judge Dredd's Enforcer or Lawmaker or whatever. No, Lawmaster. The Lawmaster was the motorcycle. What was the name of the pistol? Lawmaker? Lawmaker? Lawmaster? I think it was Lawmaker. But you can do the double whammy with the ricochet. All that stuff. More great art. And where did we get the end of gear? I'm just trying to find the end of gear here without flipping too fast. Drones. Special skills people can have, like Motivator, Mr. Fix-It, Solid Footing. Job ops, here we go. So here we've got the actual like things that you can end up doing. And there's 10 in the book, so 10 missions you can possibly go on. Things from delivering an asset, so like a cloak delivery basically trying to do. Forced administrative procurement, so going and stealing something. On the ground electronic compliance, antipathy operations, refuse data reclamation, electronic redundancy, security operation, infrastructure safekeeping, dynamic customer relations, and then there's a choose. Sorry, there's 9 in here because there's a choose, whichever one you want. So yeah, antipathy operations. This is a relatively direct, simple job op, as both crews are paid for each enemy model they have to take out of action. So you're just trying to kill each other's crews. Cloaked asset delivery. Determine the attacker and defender. The crew receives a counter or token to represent the package, who's defending, and trying to get it off the table. Dynamic customer relations, one of the more unusual job ops. Both crews must protect the Little Ramen vehicle as it makes its trip. Determine attacker and defender as usual. Before the game, mark the Little Ramen's vehicle to differentiate its left and right sides. The attacker is tasked with protecting the right side, the defender the left. Both crews are working together though, so while fighting is not prohibited, it's discouraged. The Little Ramen vehicle is a movable piece of terrain with 6 inches long, so it's literally a truck. And NPCs are trying to kill it. So freeloading customers, rad roaches, ganger punks, rabid dogs, criminal thugs, sprawl rats, and hallucinating junkies. You're actually not trying to fight each other, you're trying to stop all the NPCs from killing the truck, which is neat. Electronic redundancy. Both crews are attempting to gain access to each CAT terminal. So it's like a capture, it's like a 2 bases one. You're trying to get in and get to it. Once a crew accesses the terminal, the hacker must spend another AP to install their own app. Installing the app automatically removes any installations by the other crew, so it's like nodes. What else we got? Forced administrative procurement. Determine attacker and defender. The defending crew takes possession of the VIP. So you're trying to steal a person basically and kidnap them. On the ground, electronic compliance. Determine attacker and defender as usual. The attacker must successfully gain access to a mission network node and maintain control of it for 1 full game turn after it's gained. It has a starting fireball of 7. The defender must prevent the mission network node from being accessed, and that's it. And then after we get through all of these missions, we get to Hitches, so things that can go wrong. And I do like this part because it's the random stuff that happens. A meme war might start and it jams up the data networks. Could you imagine like just like a 1,000,000-person meme war starts and you can't actually get onto the network anymore? Corporate security comes in, does a sweep, there's a rogue app, a dodgy hood net, Dogtown, industrial smoke, train pain, baking sun, meme, acid rain starts, boom booms, just like terrible things go down. And then campaigning in the Sprawl, so you gain rep. You're in rep in Reality's Edge foremost by playing games, and your crew can use rep for other things. At the end of a campaign, the crew with the most rep's the winner. And then information, which can also be spent. Info can be sold for hard money, peddled for influence, or give you access to secrets in the Sprawl. So it's a bit like treasure items in Frostgrave, where you can find a thing. It might not be worth anything to you, but you can sell it off to get your extra ducats. And starting funds, again, you start with 800 cryptocurrency, hire your showrunner, determine your shadowbacker's agenda, and then figure out what they're trying to accomplish. I do like the agenda stuff because it gives your crew another theme. So like, for instance, I'm gonna roll a D10 and get a 1. I'm a hacktivist collective. My avatar upgrade, he gains the processing upgrade. They're detection avoiders. Once per game, reduce the amount of trace tokens this crew has by D3. And dueling deckers, each time a console cowboy reduces an enemy model to 0 digital hit points, their crew gains 10 CC. This may only be claimed once per enemy model per game. So you get an additional 10 cryptocurrency for killing things in cyberspace, basically. But you can also be working for big media. You get the streaming upgrade. Action shots, if a drone jockey or sprawl running the player's crew meets their personal motivation, you get +1 rep at the end of the game, because basically you upload the file, you YouTube whatever it was you were doing. And then payoff to, the rep counts when rolling against the payoff table. And then a ratings bonus, you get 20 CC for every game they win. Lots of cool stuff there. And you can even work for an unshackled AI. You can choose any upgrade. You have Deus Ex Machina. Console Cowboys and Infiltrators start with 1 additional environmental app, and then CC mining. Every time your crew earns a point of info from the hacking a cat terminal, they also contain corporate or cryptocurrency. Very cool. Background for all that stuff. Start your talent roster. So once you've got those things determined, your shadow backer and your showrunner. And then it's all injuries, survival table. Again, it's a D10. It's a 7. What do we do? Close call. So 6+ basically, 50-50, you're going to be fine. 4 to 5, you're captured. 3, it's a long recovery, you're missing D3 games. 2 is a permanent injury, something gets jacked up. And then 1, you're possibly dead. Roll a D6. On another 1, you're worm food. On a 2 to 4, treating is permanently injured. On a 5-6, it's captured. So it's hard to die in this, and I'm glad it's hard to die in this because you have such a small cast of like very sort of like unique and special characters that you would want it to be different. It should be a big deal if one of them actually gets offed. You also live in a very advanced like world where medicine and cybernetic enhancements and growing lungs on the back of a dog can save your life, right? So it's hard to just die. Now there is an option, if you die, to be cloned. The neurochip contained within every Sprawl citizen has the capacity to perform backup function of their neurological blueprint. If a model dies, a model can be brought back to life at any point during a campaign. To do this, you must make a 25 CC down payment, and the model must make a survival test. On a success, the model loses all unspent experience, but are not removed. Further, you must pay the remaining payment of 75 cryptocurrency immediately. If you don't pay this money, then they're considered to have failed the test. Players may spend more for better care. Add +1 to the survival test for every 10 extra CC put in your initial deposit. Note that a fumble always counts as a failure. Should a showrunner die, they're automatically re-sleeved at the behest of the shadowbacker. This costs 100 cryptocurrency and must be paid before the crew can acquire any new items, including high-end items and operatives. Any items the crew gain via gameplay before this 100 CC are paid for are automatically sold until the debt's paid. He's got to bring back your showrunner. So dying sucks, but it's basically just expensive. and you're going to get set back whatever experience you hadn't spent to upgrade yet. And then employee morale. This one's interesting. A model goes on a job op with an unhealed permanent injury. So operatives, even freelancers, expect a certain insurance against risks in the job. While this is not guaranteed in the gig economy, a showrunner that does not take care of a crew can have a hard time retaining talent. Players must roll against the employee morale table if any of the following occurs. If you go on a game with an unhealed permanent injury, for each game, an operative spends in an ISO cell without being bailed out. Let's see if you get arrested. A model returns to the crew after a long recovery when the showrunner did not pay to expedite the recovery. So on a 1, they just leave. On a 2 to 9, we're cool. On a 10, they get a pep talk. They have a heart-to-heart, and the showrunner understands some tough choices have to be made. You gain experience points from having to tough it out. So on a 1, you're gone. On a 2 to 9, and this isn't, so the resignation is different than dying. The resignation you don't come back from, because this is you decide not to work for this guy anymore. We're cool, it's okay, and then you get a bonus XP if they get a big one. They get a 10. Spending experience, earning income. Now traces. Corporate security is not a monolith. Every corporation has an angle and their own agents, and at least one hostile to the showrunner and the shadowbacker. So there's always somebody working for the man that doesn't like you. And over the course of a game, you're going to accumulate traces, and you have to roll in the trace table, every time you play a game. So you roll a d10 for every trace table, and every one you roll, a fumble, you have to look on this table to see what happens. So like, if you roll 3 rumbles, there's a real space breach. One of the Shadowbacker's data farms was breached, revealing personal information about the showrunner. Corpsec was able to assemble a profile on the showrunners, offering a significant bounty on them. So like, you can get a bounty on your head, basically, because you left too many traces behind and then rolled too many fumbles. But like a simple one, like a partial trace, the Shadowbackers detected and vanishes before Corpsec can get their agents. Still, the Shadowbackers has to lay low for a while. During the next campaign game, the Shadowbacker avatar is not available for D3 game turns, and after the D3 turns end, they're deployed in base contact with the showrunner. So he like flees for a little bit and then has to come back. So it's neat because like it just means that like you do have like a digital footprint basically at the end of every game. You can't just hack with impunity. And you're buying and spending, getting new talent, and then hiring neutral parties or having to deal with neutral parties. This is the bestiary at the back here. So Corpsec grunts, riot control guys, officers, Ripper drones, helo drone, it's like a helicopter drone, criminal enforcers, thugs, dogs, mangy and rabid, a drunk salaryman. That makes me happy. A ganger. There's a whole Queens of the Stone Age video that's basically Josh Homme and a bunch of drag salarymen wandering around Tokyo. Ganger champion, ganger punks, griefer avatars, just showing up and doing problems, hallucinating junkies, hollow stringers, mnemonic couriers, the network black ice, and all that stuff, rampaging cyborgs. And that's it, crew rosters, and we're done. Some beautiful acknowledgements here for all of his playtesters, folks that were helping out, and then some of this great concept art for some of the finished photos that you see inside as well. And there it is. Reality's Edge, Cyberpunk Skirmish rules. So if you are looking for a low model count, Cyberpunk sci-fi skirmish with lots of depth, lots of crunch, lots of things you can do, and tons of story, because that is the one thing that Joey's put in here is lots of randomly generated, progressively generated story, which I think is really, really cool. Or you just wanted to run an Altered Carbon campaign, I think this is for you. It's got notes of pretty much all of Cyberpunk in here. It's definitely a labor of love, so good job, Joey. And it should be available in August. So I hope you enjoyed this GMG review. Hopefully you'll be able to look forward to seeing this and other games on the channel soon as I get time and time and interest together to do them. Until next time on MASH, happy gaming. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below so you get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Death Ray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.